Perhaps you still don't know the weight you carry. Or perhaps you do, and that's why you've faced battles that no one understands. Have you noticed how, when you approach certain places, people begin to get uneasy? When you try to grow, someone tries to bring you down. When you stay quiet, they still interpret you wrongly. It's not a coincidence. It's resistance. You carry something that cannot be bought. A value that isn't in appearance, status, or possessions. It's in the calling. That's why they underestimated you. They tried to sell you, as if they could trade you for something more profitable, as if you were disposable. But what God placed over your life is not for sale, and it cannot be replaced. Whoever tried to extinguish your light didn't understand that it doesn't come from you. It comes from above. And whoever messes with a chosen one doesn't just challenge a single person. They challenge the author of the story itself. This video is for you who have already been betrayed, discarded, or used by someone who only saw in you an opportunity. But it's also to remind you, no plan against you prospered. You are still standing, and time will prove why. Oh, and if this message touches you in any way, don't follow this channel for the sake of following. Follow because here you will find truths that do not massage the ego, but awaken the spirit. If you feel that you carry something greater and that no one has ever been able to explain, then you are in the right place. Let's walk together, because the chosen do not walk alone. Chosen. Not every attack against you was personal. Often it had more to do with the other person's desperation than with something you did. Some people look around and in their attempt to rise quickly, choose to bring down those closest to them. It's a false idea of progress. You have become unintentionally a stepping stone for someone who only wanted to go higher. They sold you as if you were a promotional item. They did not see your essence. They only saw an opportunity for easy gain. But that's not how you achieve lasting things. Whoever tries to use another as collateral, sooner or later, pays dearly. And it's not because someone is moving fast that they are going far. Their haste becomes a trap. What seemed progress becomes a stumble. What was a shortcut becomes a deviation with no return. The thing is, with a chosen one, the game is different. Your life is not for sale. Your value cannot be calculated by those who only see numbers. What you carry is not material, it is purpose, and purpose is not negotiable. Many were mistaken in thinking they could gain something by destroying you, as if tearing away your presence would open the way for them to shine. But that's not what happened. The more they attacked you, the heavier they carried. The burden of having betrayed someone chosen by God is unbearable. They discovered in the worst way that light cannot be extinguished with words, lies, or rejection. Those who try to negotiate a chosen one are actually making a terrible deal with destiny itself. Nothing flourishes where there is betrayal. You were used as currency because you shine, because you carry something they wanted to have, but did not know how to obtain. So, instead of learning from you, they decided to trade you. Yet you don't trade a diamond for crumbs. The urgency to have immediate results makes people commit irreversible acts. They burn bridges, dissolve alliances, sacrifice sincere friendships, all to achieve something they don't even know if they truly need. In the end, they are left with the emptiness they created. And you persisted. You were wounded, yes, but you did not fall. Those who have an alliance with God may be attacked, but they will never be overcome by those who walk without truth. Time always reveals what lies behind each action. The illusion of exchange is to believe that destroying a chosen one can generate some form of victory. But what God entrusts to someone cannot be redistributed by human hands. You are not a market item. You are a divine project. That's why you bother. Because even after everything they did, you remain steadfast. Your presence, even when silent, shouts truths that pursue them. Your strength without vengeance is the greatest response. They bargained you as if they were doing a favor to the universe, as if you were an obstacle. But soon they realized you were the foundation. When they removed you from your place, everything began to crumble. Because the foundation was invisible, yet irreplaceable. You were not removed, you were protected. That exclusion was deliverance. That betrayal was revelation. That sale they tried to make was the greatest receipt of your importance. You only try to sell what has value. Those who still spend their lives exchanging people for position, status, or money are already trapped. Not by you, but by their own choice. And the hardest prison to escape is the one built with haste, lies, and ambition. You keep going, without negotiating your essence, without bargaining your faith, because those who are chosen understand that there is no need to chase what has already been written. You only need to remain. Some people didn't want to walk with you. They just wanted to hitch a ride on your light. They thought that by staying nearby, they would get shine without effort, as if they were beside a lit lamp, waiting to reflect. But real light cannot be imitated. It is born from within. And what isn't genuine, one day vanishes. They tried to take advantage of what you carried. They approached with smiles, with interest, with disguised intentions. But time always exposes what is hidden. And what seemed an advantage revealed itself as a heavy burden. Did they gain some things? Perhaps. But they lost the essential. When the foundation of the achievement is envy, the return never comes with peace. It's like drinking salty water hoping to quench thirst. The more they try to satisfy themselves, the emptier they become inside. You were a direction sign, a reminder that one can grow with truth, with faith, with purpose. But they didn't want to learn. They wanted to copy. They wanted to take. And everything that is stolen loses its charm. The shine they envied was the result of a process they were not willing to live. They wanted the fruit, but without planting the seed. They wanted the stage, without passing through the desert. And that's why what they achieved didn't last. Their minds began to weigh down. The soul grew restless. The body grew tired. Because there is no rest when you build something on injustice. Everything that seemed progress turned into guilt. Everything that seemed achievement turned into internal pressure. They looked at you and desired your position, without knowing your story. They did not understand the price of your process, the value of your pain, the root of your strength. They thought it was luck, but it was grace. And grace is not stolen. When you were removed from the scene, they thought they could now shine. But they soon realized they did not have their own light. It was you who lit the environment. Your presence sustained the mood, the peace, the purpose. Without you, everything went dark. And it wasn't only because of your absence, it was because of the lack of truth that had always existed in them. The mask fell, and the emptiness appeared. Whoever tries to touch what isn't theirs always ends up wounded, not because you retaliated, but because messing with a chosen one is to break with the spiritual order. It is to plant injustice and wait for a good harvest. That never works. They wanted what you had, but they were not prepared to endure what you endure. They desired your destiny, but they would not endure your processes. And that's where greed becomes a curse. The shine they envied was the consequence of a calling, of nights in silence, of hidden pains, of difficult decisions. Nothing came easy for you, but to them, it seemed far too simple. And when they tried to take a shortcut, they lost the entire map. It wasn't you who caused their ruin. It was the intention behind the gestures. It was the misaligned heart, the restless soul, the thirst for status. They thought they were being strategic, but they were digging a hole. You kept going, with a clean heart, with a peaceful soul. And that's why, even in silence, you continue to grow. Because those who walk with purpose do not need to compete. They only need to remain. The emptiness they feel now isn't guilt. It's a lack of meaning, because they removed you thinking they would be free, but in truth, they lost what gave meaning to their journey. You are still light, even when they try to turn you off. Chosen one. Betraying a chosen one is never a smart choice. It may seem bold, but it's blindness. Those who do this believe they're playing a strategic game, as if destiny were a piece on a board, but it isn't. And the error starts there. They thought they were being clever. They schemed behind the scenes. They orchestrated schemes. They manipulated words and people, all meticulously planned, calculated down to the millimeter. They simply forgot one detail. The owner of the story is God. When someone rises against a chosen one, they aren't just messing with one person. They are challenging the divine plan. They are poking at heaven with a short stick, and that is a war that is already lost. The first steps seemed to go well. The doors opened for them. The appearance of success even deceived some, but any advantage built on betrayal becomes a trap along the way. They were so busy trying to stop you that they didn't see they were walking toward their own abyss. The ground they seemed to tread firmly began to give way, and everything collapsed from the inside out. They were not competing with you. They were trying to defeat the one who wrote your story. And no human plan defeats a celestial plan. The betrayal against a chosen one is not just a mistake. It is a certificate of spiritual ignorance. They did not understand who you were. They did not discern the anointing you carry. They saw a target, but were touching something sacred. Each move against you returned as weight, not because you desired vengeance, but because God's justice does not fail. He knows what is hidden, and He Himself takes care to correct what was done in the dark. The greatest illusion was to believe they could manipulate the outcomes. They thought they could take the place that was yours. But purpose is not inherited by force. A calling is not stolen. You may have remained silent. You may have suffered in silence. But you were not left unprotected. Heaven continued to guard you. And at the right moment, everything began to turn. Those who betrayed you began to reap the consequences. Doors opened through deceit began to close without explanation. Luck turned into burden. Fame turned into pressure. Their bet was crystal clear. Remove you from the path to occupy your space. But there is no space where there is no purpose. And what wasn't done for someone will never take hold in the wrong hands. You were set aside, but you were not forgotten. You were preserved. And while they celebrated the victory, you were being aligned with the next level. Because those who walk with God are never late. They are in preparation. Those who bet against you lost. And they didn't lose because you reacted. They lost because they meddled with divine justice. And it never fails. We live in a generation addicted to immediate results. And those who don't learn to wait give in to shortcuts. But everything built in haste is fragile. It may look firm at the start, but soon shows cracks. They wanted everything fast. Status, wealth, attention. They thought they could achieve it by eliminating you from the path. But they didn't understand that the shortest paths hide the greatest dangers. The plan seemed good. To remove you from the game, replace your presence, steal your idea, force doors to open. But nothing forced lasts. What starts without roots dies at the first gust. Their haste became a prison. They tried to skip the process. They ignored the foundation, built on sand. And now they are sinking into what they created themselves. Life charges, and with interest. The opportunities that came quickly also left without warning. The money that came in evaporated. The connections proved false. Because nothing that is born from lies thrives with truth. They even seemed to be winning. They posted achievements, spoke of progress, created appearances of success. But behind the scenes, the pressure was unsustainable. Because when you run without direction, fatigue has no purpose. You may have been discredited for a time. But you were not defeated, because those who wait for the right time harvest fruits that don't rot easily. You are being forged, while others are crumbling inside. Their thirst was for applause, but they ignored the silence of the process. And the silence is where God forms the chosen. While you waited, they hurried. While you planted, they tried to steal the fruit. The difference now is visible. You keep growing in peace. They keep trying to sustain a castle built on appearances. But no one lives by appearances for long. Sooner or later, everything collapses. You chose the hardest path, but also the safest. They chose shortcuts, and today live trapped in the turns they took. All haste without direction costs dearly, and they are paying the price. But the decision to try to bring you down was not strength. It was pure weakness. Only someone who is insecure within themselves believes they need to erase the other to shine. It wasn't courage. It was desperation. It wasn't strategy. It was fear. Your presence was uncomfortable because, without saying a word, it exposed the emptiness that existed inside them. You were a mirror, and no one likes to see themselves without filters. Instead of recognizing their own imbalance, they chose to attack you. They tried to push you away, not because you were the problem, but because your resolve revealed how unstable they were. You didn't threaten with actions. It was your essence that yelled. It was what you carried that bothered them. They tried to disguise it with smiles, but inside they carried envy. They fantasized ambition, but it was insecurity. They memorized pretty speeches, but their intentions were rotten. They tried to show strength, but what became evident was the fragility of someone who needs to destroy someone else to feel sufficient. Their mistake wasn't envy. It was choosing to act against a chosen one. You never needed to retaliate, because your presence already is the answer. They made noise trying to erase you, but you silenced yourself and kept going. And that was stronger than any reaction. Your resilience revealed their weakness. And now, what haunts them isn't what you said, but the fact that you're still standing. The betrayal was just the tip of the iceberg. Behind it was an empty soul, an anxious mind, and a directionless heart. And no one builds something solid that way. Time showed that, without internal structure, every attack attempt ends up collapsing. And everything they did against you now weighs on them as a reflection of their own incapacity. They tried to turn your calling into something sellable, as if it were possible to put a price on what God wrote with purpose, as if talent, light, and destiny were shelf items. They tried to copy, imitate, push too hard. But what comes from heaven cannot be faked. And those who try to sell what is eternal end up empty. Your life was treated as if it were their project, as if they could use your story to promote themselves. They stole ideas, took shortcuts, forced doors. But any construction without essence collapses over time. Nothing prospers when the base is falsehood, and those who sow ambition reap frustration. What was done against you was born rootless. They thought they could silence your voice and occupy your space. But the voice that carries purpose echoes, even in silence. They tried to hold you back, but you were preserved. What seemed defeat was, in fact, protection. Because what is sacred cannot be commercialized. and your mission was never for sale. While you walked in truth, they negotiated visibility. They thought online presence could replace spiritual presence. But likes do not sustain purpose. Appearance does not sustain a legacy, and what God gave you cannot be bought, cannot be traded, cannot be imitated. You carry something that is not commercial. It is a covenant, not a product. And a covenant is not revoked. They keep trying to understand how you didn't fall, and the answer is in what sustains you. Truth, identity, faith. While they sought shortcuts, you remained steadfast on the path. And now time is showing what is real, because what cannot be sold also cannot be taken away. And destiny does not go on sale. They really believed that by taking you out of the way, everything would be resolved. That, with your absence, the space would be open for them to finally shine. But what happened was exactly the opposite. What sustained their presence was, in fact, yours. When you left, the scene collapsed. The light went out. The charm broke. You were the one who kept the environment aligned. It was your energy, your truth, your balance that organized everything effortlessly. They didn't realize this while you were there. But your absence was enough for everything to become evident. The presence that bothered them was, in truth, what kept everything standing. Without you, what remained was silence. And not the peaceful silence, but the uncomfortable silence of someone who senses they do not carry substance. Because what they had was only reflection. It was your light hitting them that made them seem illuminated. When they tried to erase you, they erased themselves. The truth is, they didn't know how to be. They only knew how to hide behind what you were. When you left the scene, the structure fell. The words lost strength. The actions lost direction. And the shine they thought they had turned out to be empty vanity. You didn't need to prove anything. Life itself showed it. Because the presence of a chosen one carries weight, even in silence. The absence of a chosen one reveals what others try to hide, that they weren't prepared. They lacked consistency. They lacked a calling. They keep talking about you, not out of longing, but out of discomfort. Because knowing that you remain firm, even after everything, is what weighs the most. The memory of your presence continues to shout in the environment where they tried to erase you. And that memory is intolerable for those who tried to see you on the ground. Chosen, everything you have lived so far has a purpose. Nothing was by accident. No rejection, no cut, no distance happened without a greater purpose. The attacks that came upon your life were not signs of weakness, but evidence of how much your existence bothers those who have not yet understood their own path. You were opposed, yes, but not because you were a problem, but because you were an answer. And every time an answer appears, it confronts the lies around it. Your presence, effortlessly, called into question the false security of many. And that's why they tried to erase you. They did not succeed. Because what comes from God is not undone by envy, not broken by rejection, and not erased by abandonment. The shine that accompanies you is not yours. It is the reflection of heaven on you. They touched your story thinking they were beating you, but they were challenging the very author of your journey. They may have achieved some applause, won small victories, even attracted looks. But at what cost? Peace vanished. Direction was lost, because nothing that is born from deceit endures for long. What seemed like success revealed itself as a prison. And today, even in silence, your permanence echoes louder than any noise they made. You continue, and you stand. Your journey is far from perfect, but it is true. You fell and got up. You cried and went on. You lost important things, but did not lose the essence. You did not sell out. You did not mold yourself to the system. You did not distance yourself. from the one who called you. And that is what frightens. You still carry the same light, only now with more maturity. Chosen, understand one thing. You were never a commodity. You were treated as a product by those who did not know how to recognize purposes. But destiny does not belong on a shelf. And what was written about your life cannot be revoked. Your value is not in anyone's hands. It is in the one who formed you. Everything they used against you will become testimony. Every pain, a tool. Every loss, proof. Time will reveal the truth. And those who wanted to use your pain as currency will be forced to watch your ascent, not as vengeance, but as divine answer. Because those who walk with God do not take revenge. They rise. And if this message reached you, it was not by accident. This word was released to remind you of who you are, and especially who you will still become. If something here touched your soul, I invite you to follow this channel, not out of routine, but for purpose. Because here, you will not find content to distract you, but direction to align you. Comment below which part spoke to you most, and share with someone who needs to wake up to what they carry. You are not alone. You are chosen. And God will still prove this with your story.